So, today I want to highlight a few highly dystopian usages of technology. While I do typically have a positive view of technology and think that it can be a tool to liberate humans and to provide a better experience for humanity under anarchical models of living, to provide more time and leisure and care for human beings. Under capitalism and authoritarian perspectives and regimes, technology has proven to be used as a tool for quite the opposite. From drones to surveillance equipment to tracking software and so much more. Technology's been used to cause a significant amount of harm. Now, the trouble is that technology is often as dangerous as its users and its designers design them for. Each regime and each technological innovation can be used for many different purposes. So, with that said, I want to look at two particular dystopian technologies that have come out recently. One of them is DigiDog, a police robot that is, I guess, identified as looking like and acting in dog like ways, and Marty, a robot that has been put into stores and roams around supermarkets to detect spills and deal with certain price tracking information. So, DigiDog is a product of Boston Dynamics, and it's essentially a drone. It is a drone. It has a camera, it has all the functionality of a drone, except it walks on four legs and it looks kind of dog like. So this is an image of DigiDog. You can see it here. It's got the four legs, the camera and microphone to replace what would be essentially the head. And if you look at the back portion of it, it's able to hold attachments and to hold like rope or any sort of any number of other things. And the device can actually have attachments placed on it. And the disturbing part about this is that the NYPD has actually implemented and utilized it in multiple cases already. One in Brooklyn, one in Queens, and most recently, the one that is being talked about in this article is a case in the Bronx, where they were able to put the dog in place of officers having to enter certain places. And in general, the functionality of this device is something that's worth examining and is kind of has a creepy factor to it. And so with that said, there's a video that I'd like to show off that kind of talks about some of the features. So let's take a look at that video.
That 09 is News exclusive, and we're getting a look at the NYPD's newest crime-fighting tool, a robotic dog. This dog, it can be sent to dangerous situations and help protect officers. Eyewitness News reporter Kimberly Richardson shows us exactly how it works.
Because that's what we should be worried about, protecting officers.
There's a new dog in town, and NYPD canine Archer isn't quite sure what to make of it.
This dog is going to save lives. It's going to protect people. It's going to protect officers, and that's our goal.
Its name is DigiDog. Weighing 70 pounds, it's able to run about 3.5 miles per hour. But that's not all. Check this out. We got an exclusive look at what this futuristic four-legged being can do. Yes, it goes upstairs.
From a tech level, that's absolutely fascinating.
Its, artificial intelligence to kind of navigate through very complex environments.
Deepu John says it's as simple as playing a video game. He's with the NYPD's Technical Assistance Research Unit. It's one of many officers trained to operate the RoboDog. It is covered with cameras and lights, which allows police to get a real-time look at things.
We can send it into complete darkness, and we get an idea of what's going on inside.
There it is. It was yellow at the time. In Brooklyn in October, a shooting suspect had barricaded himself in a home. Then in Queens, DigiDog was back at it at this tense scene where two armed men were holding 5 hostages in a home. The suspects had a request.
People wanted food, so we strapped food onto it, sent it into the location.
DigiDog is also capable of two-way communication. If an officer needs to talk with the suspect, he or she can. Watch this. Hello, are you there?
Yes, this is the NYPD.
In January,
It's so creepy.
arms coming out, so it'll be able to open doors and move objects.
For now, this is the department's.
I'm sorry, just the idea that they're going to put extensions and attachments on it, that it's going to be able to open doors and just be able to move devices and move things. That is so terrifying. because what else can be attached to that device?
Only robot dog during this test phase. It's only been used a few times, but officers are hoping to add more, convince DigiDog has a bright future here.
Now, New York's number.
Now, I find that absolutely terrifying that DigiDog would actually have a bright future for our society. That is a society that is absolutely terrifying to me. DigiDog, it represents a creepiness factor that I don't even know how to put fully into words, but just trying to. First and foremost, it reminds me of an early model of what would be essentially the mechanical hound from Fahrenheit 451, if you've read that, or if you're more into tech. I think there was an episode of Black Mirror that had something similar to this, or the Fenrir's from the Metal Gear Solid series. There's been this precedent to have this kind of dystopian tech. And just for an example, the Fenrir's from Metal Gear Solid look essentially like this. And it's not very off. They have the camera in the front, they're able to do attachments, they have the 4 legs, and everything else. And this one happens to have a railgun attached to it. Which brings me to my larger point. The dog-like appearance is what I think an attempt to make what is essentially a foot drone look palatable to people. It's to make it a little bit more convenient and easy for certain populations and people to accept this, while it probably enforces the exact same perspectives that the NYPD and other police institutions would do in the past. And I think the design is intentionally misleading, and that could be harmful in and of itself, because it'll be easier to normalize it into the public perception and eye. And I could also see this being used to spy and track people with different political perspectives or opinions. I can see this being used as a tool to actively harm people and track people in illegal fashions. I can see the Supreme Court cases way in advance of whether or not using a surveillance drone of a robot dog is a violation of certain constitutional rights. That is a terrifying perspective and future to be examining. Furthermore, I could see this robot being equipped with weaponry or sedation equipment, quite like the Fenrir's and the robot dog, the mechanical hound from Fahrenheit 451, where it's equipped with a needle that's maybe tipped with something that can, knock out a target, or even a railgun or a gun equipped to the device that could have it discriminately shoot a specific target. And it literally would be like the they described in the video, where it would be almost like a video game. And it just creates this very surreal dynamic. And again, I imagine that later models of this device will end up being faster, more efficient, able to run at greater speeds than 3.5 miles an hour. This is the prototype. And at the end of the day, this could be a dangerous tool that, if left, of course, in the hands of people who already indiscriminately kill people, especially people of color in the middle of the street, this tool's only going to further that end and goal. Now, further, I need to point out that this robot costs about $75,000 to produce, and that is a lot of money, and I can think of thousands of better ways to spend that money in a reality where we should be talking about defunding the police, not giving them new toys to play with. And I think that that's an important discussion that needs to be had around these technologies. Just because we can doesn't mean we should. And we could use these devices to, deliver things to people, or provide mutual aid for each other, or provide care for each other. And instead they're being implemented in a way to surveil people and to cause potentially active harm. And as much as they describe the idea that, it'll protect and save lives, which lives? And will it actually protect lives, or will it just be another authoritarian use of power? Now, with that said, I want to talk about Marty, the robot that has been implemented by giant food stores in some of its northeastern locations. Now, this is Marty. Marty is... There we go. This is Marty. Marty is the googly-eyed robot that you see in front of you right now. Now, the position of Marty, what he's designed for, or what it's designed for, is to be an autonomous robot that uses image capturing technology to report spills, debris, and other potential hazards to store employees to improve a shopping experience. That is the implied goal. The robot moves around the store unassisted, scanning floors for spills and trip hazards, which are reported to human workers, the company said. Once a spill is located, the machine, which makes beeping noises as it moves, reports it by verbally communicating to human employees after paging them. Marty says, "Caution, hazard detected," to alert customers, but the machine also sends an announcement through the store's public address system alerting associates. It is powered by a rechargeable lithium battery and has multiple cameras on it. They keep emphasizing the cameras. That's key as far as I'm concerned. Giant said the robot's efforts free up associates to spend more time serving customers and help reduce the risk caused by spilled food. Because he's doing assistant work, Marty isn't replacing human jobs. Now, again, with this, I just want to point this out there. Giant is not the only retailer turning to robots to police their aisles. In December, it was announced that Walmart would place 360 autonomous robots in its stores, and their job would be to scrub the stores and collect data. And so this really does represent a weird trend in terms of technological development, where the collection of data in particular is going to be something that is utilized by stores in probably inappropriate ways. And even with the DigiDog, it's going to be, misused by the police departments as well. Anytime you have cameras and data being implemented in these ways where it's mobile and able to track people, it's going to cause something wrong. And the truth is Marty, as it is designed, is probably a weirdly useless novelty item by itself, and it probably won't last. It seems to me that Marty will simply exist in the frustrating position that annoys people who work in stores and will get in the way of customers from time to time, between the constant beeping noise they described, and I can just imagine that grating on somebody and certain people who have to hear it all day as this robot is beeping past them consistently. And then the robot consistently finding tiny objects or misrepresenting what is actually, an actual thing that needs to be handled or mistaken, or even knocking things down itself and being like, "Oh, look, I knocked down this jar that was half hanging off the shelf as I was going by. Hazard, hazard, clean up my mess." I can see all these things transpiring because that's the flaws in technology as we have it right now. And this is just going to be mostly, again, a frustration and a nuisance to workers more than anything else. And I also think it's like a real waste that it doesn't actually clean the spills. Look, it's literally designed to walk up to the spills or move up to the spills and to just be like, hey, human worker, go clean this up. Clean it up. I'm going to annoy you until you clean it up. It doesn't actually do anything functional. The only other thing that I've seen it being intended for is to check prices, but ultimately that's not going to be a major function of it. And it just doesn't seem like it's going to work in any significant direction. And it just strikes me as a bizarre managerial decision more than anything else. It's also probably not nearly as functional as a customer or staff reporting a spill or dealing with what's going on there. And it just seems like a genuine waste of $35,000 per unit, which could be better used to actually pay workers a better wage, which could be better used to cut costs for consumers. It could be used in so many different ways to better companies than to just waste this money on this robot. The thing, again, that terrifies me with these devices is that we're seeing more and more cameras implemented. It could monitor customers, it could monitor employees. There's the constant risk that theft is going to be an issue, and the assumption that customers and employees are to be treated as potential thieves within these moments and institutions. And it's disturbing. And again, we see the same type of thing where it's sort of, humanized in the idea that it has the googly eyes on it and isn't just this, piercing mechanical device. It's somehow being made palatable to people. so that people go, oh, look, it's the cute robot with the googly eyes, as opposed to the terrifying machine that's spying and surveying on us. And it potentially represents a device that in the future might replace employees. And that's really disturbing. So that said, the fear of jobs being replaced is actually a valid concern. Some of the technologies present here could eventually replace a lot of the needs for humans in these spaces. If that robot was able to actually sweep the floors and actually able to set prices and mark prices and deal with certain other aspects, over time, this technology could eventually replace a lot of the need for store associates, quite in the way that self-checkouts have removed certain cashier positions. Now, without proper infrastructure in place to properly provide for people outside of the current economic system, these robots are an absolute threat to human livelihoods. They're a threat to human organizing, they are a threat to unions, they are a threat to any form of strength that workers could form to protect themselves in this type of society. Under capitalism, they are a threat. In a different type of society, maybe an anarchist or maybe a more communistic understanding of society, these could actually liberate us from work. And so it's interesting to point out the nuance that under capitalism, this could represent a very dystopian position, but under an alternative system where we're provided the luxury and goods off of this particular type of device, it actually frees certain humans from having to go through drudgery and would allow those same humans to still get access to food and care, even though they wouldn't have to work in these particular ways for that money. They could move into more productive aspects of society or more free time or whatever the society deems necessary. Now, and with that said, I need to point out, I do believe that automation is a good thing. Again, technology is only as good as the powers that utilize them. Without the proper implementation of economic systems, jobs will be an issue. Marty and its future models will be a threat to the position of humans under capitalist authoritarian regimes, and DigiDog will always be a constant reminder of the abuses that can come from authority, as opposed to a tool that might actually be able to help people. And we should be weary of these types of dystopian technologies. We should be calling them into question and asking, are they serving a purpose that is beneficial to our society? Just because the technology exists, and just because we can think of positive implications and implementations of the devices, doesn't mean that we shouldn't question when they are used inappropriately or wrong. Technology is only as moral as its users. So with that said, if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, hit the subscribe button and bell for notifications. You can follow me on Twitter and check out my Discord in the description down below. My name is Anarchist Tara, and I hope you enjoyed watching.